Hello all, I hope you're doing well today. When I lived in London, I always struggled with the London Underground, and that's not because I can't recognise that it's an engineering marvel. I think it's the oldest subway system in the world, actually, that other cities modelled their own on. You'll have to fact check me on that, but I believe that's the case. You can see here many of our ancestors building the tunnels back in the day. Lots of white privilege on display, and you can see how diversity built Britain there. But the point I'm getting at is you can recognise there's a magic to the London Underground. It's a very handy way to get around the city, and even the sign of the London Underground speaks England. It's a highly recognisable international symbol of our achievements. But the reason I struggled with the London Underground was because, to be blunt, in the modern world you're squished on like a sardine and nobody seems to have any respect for anybody else. I have very English sensitive sensibilities. I'm from the Shire, I like space, and I highly value peace and quiet. Now, I describe this as uniquely English because I think it describes many of our norms and customs that are admittedly going, if not gone, over the past few decades since we've moved away from our tradition. This is why the average tube journey can be a hellish experience for the average Englishman these days, and in my view it's because we've forgotten who we are, we've forgotten about personal space and manners, and instead the mentality of the rest of the world has come in, which in my view is why we now have this constant invasion of the shared peace, whether it's someone playing Candy Crush on their phone or playing Taylor Swift featuring Snoop Dogg and Eminem blasting out vulgar language at full volume. It constantly gets in the way of everyone else's freedom. Of course, it's not just the foreigners doing this. You see even some of the young British doing it as well. I guess it's a case of if you can't beat them, join them. Plus, they never had elders to kick them in the right direction anyway. But it seems to me we're in a mindset that silence isn't the open, loving foundation of life, the sacred source from which all life springs, the great mystery from which we emanate and will eventually return to. It seems that in the modern world we try to silence the silence itself. We need an unending racket of modernity, lest the addicted, feverish mind get bored and we have to deal with our emotions, or worse still, confront the stillness of the soul within. We can see from these clips of the underground back in the day, before the dawn of modernity, the dark times where people were quiet and patient and respectful of each other's space, mitigating the unpleasant effects of such a journey. Another issue with the modern London Underground is getting on a carriage is a sort of lottery. You might get a complete nutter. Some of them are homegrown, some of them are stowaways from the third world, the result of globalist liberalism having its tentacles in every arena. Why are they here? Who knows? Are they liable to be violent and dangerous? Probably. Is it wise to try and subdue them? Well, that comes with risk. You might get stabbed, but you might also be seen as the bad guy. And this leads to situations such as the one on your screen now. Here we have some UK youth clearly upsetting some women and trying to remove them from their seats so he can sit down. Very gentlemanly, you'll see, and people obviously don't want to get involved for, well, obvious reasons. Yeah, you show those disgusting toxic whites. They deserve it with their privilege. This apparently happened coming into Notting Hill Gate Tube, a far cry from the Hugh Grant Notting Hill in the collective consciousness. Hugh Grant, of course, being the Blairite wet dream of what an Englishman is. Of course, the Blairite dream has turned into a Blairite reality in places like Notting Hill these days. Locals are harangued and pushed around by intimidating UK youths that are inspired half by US rap music and half trickled down post-colonial theory. Of course, in this day and age, the middle-class Englishman with his southern accent that appeals to Americans is usually a self-hating liberal nihilist who sources scraps of meaning from critical race theory with a slight rude boy affectation in his accent to show he's down with the kids. Or it might be the lesser-spotted far-right bigot who mourns his beloved England like me. Anyway, here's another example. Here's a man culturally enriching people's tube ride recently. As you can see, he's got his meat and two veg out, thankfully blurred. And it goes to show there are some good blokes still around. They tell him to pull his trousers up. There are kids on the tube. He tells them to F off. They tell him to sort himself out. He refuses. He gets aggressive. And a few blokes basically fill him in. Now, I don't know what these blokes are supposed to do. This guy has got his dingleberry out, he's being physically and verbally aggressive, and he's upsetting other passengers, including children. They have to take action and subdue the threat. And to show I'm not telling porkies when I explain how the liberal media responds to these things, here's a report on this from London News, a popular London news website. Half-naked man in mental health crisis beaten by London Underground passengers. That tells a fair story, doesn't it? Mental health crisis or not, this moron has got his dong out in front of women and children and is being physically and verbally abusive. They had to take action. Just as a side note here, I noticed Aran Bastani of Novara Media fame stated good on these people for standing up. Yeah, Aran Bastani is the guy who sells caps saying Londonistan forever for £25 through his company. And this isn't the only socially conservative statement he's made recently, which is winning over many of the online right commenters. However, I'm not too sure what's actually going on here. Is he maybe genuinely moving away from the nonsense of revolutionary socialism and moving towards more socially conservative positions, as so many young men do as they mature? Or is this evidence of a new tactic from the left to pick up on people's anger due to the total destruction of social standards due to globalist liberalism, mass immigration, multiculturalism and so on, and reintegrate that into a more multicultural model of socialist takeover? In truth, I don't know the answer to that one, but it is one to watch down the line, because it seems to me to be a big jump to go from you're all completely evil, toxic, white privileged males who should shut up and your country's being made multicultural due to mass immigration, to no, I completely agree with your concerns, they're completely valid, these things just need more funding. As I say, I'm not completely sure what's going on here, but I am sceptical, as I think we all should be. However, whether Bastani's turn is legitimate or not, it doesn't seem to have caught on with the rest of the youngsters in London. Remember earlier when I said if you're to go to London looking for a Hugh Grant, you're more likely to find a young man who's completely ideologically possessed, deracinated and nihilistic in his spiritual outlook? Well, here you go. These types are 10 a penny in London.
Is immigration a problem in the UK?
No,
Why'd you say no?
because it's fundamental to our existence.
Oh, why'd you say that?
Because we need it. We don't have enough people being born in this country, we need immigrants.
Do you think we
Simple.
have overpopulations in major cities?
No, not at all. We've got loads of room. I think that's a lie. We have the Greenbelt. The Greenbelt is mostly empty space, and we've killed all the animals in it. We might as well build on it. We need houses. It's the fundamental thing that kills our country and kills our young people. We need to build houses. We need to make them so that people can buy them and own them and stop them being owned by landlords.
He's got it all figured out then, hasn't he? We need infinite immigrants from the third world because we don't need the English people and their identity anymore. To hell with that. We certainly don't need England's green and pleasant land, the heart and soul of England. Let's just pave all of that over for the migrants. After all, repeat the mantra of the age with me, everyone, like a good liberal would.
Is immigration a problem in the UK?
No,
Why'd you say no?
because it's fundamental to our existence.
That's right, toxic bigots. Your very existence depends upon the sacred immigrant. How could you get to work on the tube in the morning without one of them getting his knackers out and showing everyone, eh? Anyway, do let me know what you think about all this down below. If you need some relief from the madness of the modern world, do check out the sister channel called The Sacred Way. It's all about personal and spiritual transformation. Other than that, do subscribe to the channel and enjoy the rest of your day.